people who work in Apple, they tell me conversation is always around, I am making a difference, I am making a difference. Now, why are executives so stressed out? Stress is considered the executive's disease. The real remedy to stress was given 5,000 years ago in the Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Arjun, do your works, but don't be attached to outcomes.
Once young people enter organizations, what is it that leaders should do to cultivate this spirit of giving?
Sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhya cha. Arjun, you are a warrior. Carry on doing your works. Don't artificially throw it away and go into the jungle. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you have not found the purpose in your life that you are willing to die for, your life is not worth living.
Swamiji, welcome to the Level Supermind podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshil. Happy to be here.
Thank you for, I think it's a privilege and an honor for us to have you here. And this one, which we're going to touch upon, we're really going to touch upon your work that you've done with corporates and the business world to bridge the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and the various spiritual experiences that you've had with the world of business and the world of enterprise. So to start with, how can organizations create purpose? And what does it take for organizations to create deeper purpose?
I think the beginning comes from developing good beliefs. If the belief is that success lies in earning money, in becoming bigger than the others, and that is the pathway to happiness, then that is the effort or the goals that the corporates will make. And if they realize there's a different kind of happiness which will satisfy us from within, and that comes from finding a meaning and purpose in our life that is higher than ourselves, that is when corporates decide. Just recently, a professor from IIT Delhi was saying that how do we teach values to students? Because we tell them these are the values to live by. They hear it and they don't accept it. So my advice was, you show them how these values are beneficial to them. And that is the pull approach rather than the push approach. Likewise, if the corporates can understand that the happiness we are seeking will come from service. Now, what is the logic for that? Consider this hand. It's a part of the body. And the purpose of the hand is to serve the body. In doing that, its needs are automatically met. The hand doesn't need to think, what should I do for myself? It merely serves what it is a part of. Now, if the hand refuses to accept this relationship of service and giving and says, enough is enough, so many years have gone by, cut me and I'll stay by myself, it won't be able to sustain its own existence. So the self-interest of the hand lay in serving the body. Likewise, every individual, either like the cut hand, we can think, how do I gratify myself? Or we realize that I'm a tiny fragment of all of creation. And in giving to creation, I will get what I need. The happiness, the love, the knowledge, the bliss. We will then adopt service as our goal. Once that gets established in the minds of people, that service is what is fulfilling, service is what makes life meaningful, then automatically they try to find a purpose in their works.
So, can we go deeper into this purpose? For example, I've had a chance to work with a very large beauty company, L'Oreal, and they say that their purpose is beauty for all, because they believe that they're creating products which allow people to express their beauty, and therefore they create beauty for all. I'm just giving this as an example just so that we can go a bit deeper. And I also have then questions with respect to some of the challenges. Now, while they're doing that, it's at the end of the day, the products are all, packaged into plastic. So they recognize that. So there is also a move away from plastic to then recycle the plastic. But it's challenging, right, in a corporate environment, because at one end we are talking about purpose. And yes, there is that larger sense of service, and then there are some of these challenges that they may have with respect to the ground reality of what their products may do as harm, quote unquote, to A, their consumers, and B, to the environment. So how do you kind of look at, this is where I'm at now, this is how I will strengthen the purpose, and this is where I will take it? What does that program look like?
If a corporation wishes to be successful, it needs to pay attention to three things. The earlier concept was that the bottom line is all that is important, and that is what investors will think of. What are my profits? But if that is all we are thinking about, it will be a short-term perspective which may not be sustainable. So an intelligent investor is one who will look at three bottom lines. The first is, does this company have a product of choice? Now, the corporation may be giving a beauty product, but what is the intention behind it? I want to extract as much as I can. Or they have a need. I am serving and fulfilling that need. And the profit is the acclaim that I am receiving for giving a product of choice. And likewise, am I the employer of choice? Which means, what is my perspective towards the employees? Am I out to squeeze them and get the maximum work? Or do I realize that they are on a journey of their own life, and my corporation is fulfilling their needs? So it must work as a win-win situation, not an exploitative one, where working for the corporation is the best way they can fulfill their needs. We then become the employers of choice. And that is when an intelligent investor realizes that this is now an investment of choice, right? So in the process, like you have said, there are sometimes difficult ethical decisions to make. And there isn't one easy solution for them. You have to evaluate the pros and cons. It's just like the dilemma that Indra Nooyi faced when she took over as the CEO of PepsiCo. Right? On one hand, she was heading a company that was selling aerated products that are harmful for people's health. On the other hand, she wishes to find meaning and purpose in her work. So she couldn't completely reject the old product line. But she took solid steps in adding health foods, which kind of changed the product composition of PepsiCo. So you need to be practical and balance different factors.
Got it. You raised a very interesting point about the investors looking beyond profits. But today there are very few measures for the beyond profits, or at least not measures that then drive people to then invest into companies. Through your work and through your experiences with companies, what could be some of those measures of tomorrow that could be, let's say, listed on a market as measures for then investors to come in? I mean, what does this new world look like?
The reason there are no measures like that is because the awareness has not reached that level. So, for example, in India, the investor is still quite immature. They say, look, I've got this money and I want to put it into your company and pull it out with the maximum profits possible, right? So they have this narrow perspective. Whereas in developed countries like the US, they have become a little more mature. So, for example, one of the angel investors in Dallas, he said that if you come to me saying that I wish to manufacture knives because I think that there's a huge profit available here, I'm not interested in investing. But if you tell me you've been thinking about knives for the last 15 years and you've got it all in your, so excited about it, then come, we will speak. Right? So this is the inner intention of the people. Now, how do you check the inner intention of people? There are no available such measures. Of course, in future, steps may be taken because people like Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence, he did a study of 200 corporations and he studied the EQ of their executives and correlated it to how profitably they were functioning. And he said that if the EQ of the executives is higher, they just are more effective. Now, here we are talking about a different kind of intelligence, which is SQ, spiritual intelligence. See, this intelligence, the way it develops is, the first that develops is your physical intelligence. As a little infant, when you learn to control your body, and then you enter school, now the cognitive intelligence comes into play. You have to understand problems, analyze them, come up with solutions. This is the IQ. And then when you enter adolescence, now the EQ starts developing. Because life has become so complex, there are so many relationships. And then as a young adult, the SQ starts developing for many. SQ, or spiritual intelligence, helps you appreciate that you are not cut off from the rest of creation, but are an integral part of all creation. Like the recent COVID, which started in one place and spread all over, made us painfully realize how interconnected the world is. Right? So spiritual intelligence makes you self-aware. What are my values? It makes you universally aware of your connection with all of creation. It helps you develop self-mastery skills. How can I keep my higher self in charge? And it helps you in professional mastery skills, means how do I use my profession to make a difference in this world? So these things come as a result of spiritual maturity. They cannot be imposed. When a person decides that hedonic delights, we keep running after them, they will thrill, but they will never fulfill. And the real purpose, if I can find one, that is what will give me satisfaction. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you have not found a purpose in your life that you are willing to die for, your life is not worth living. That kind of realization, when it starts dawning in people, then those corporations adopt a giving mentality and everything changes. So the materialistic consciousness is take, whether it's from employees, whether it's from customers, whether it's from investors. Now the spiritual consciousness is give. Give to employees, make their life, enrich it, give to the customers, and as a result, you will get the profits you need. No doubt, we do need to come up with some measures. We'll have to think a little more about it.
So sorry for the interruption, but 94.3% of you are regular viewers of this podcast, and haven't yet hit the subscribe button. So if you're enjoying the conversation so far, can I please request you to hit subscribe? Got it. That's a good blueprint. Just move from take to give, and therefore that already sheds light on what measures you can have, because today a lot of our in corporates especially, a lot of the effort of the measurement is on the take side. How many off takes did I have? We say word like off take. How many distributed, how many distributors did I gain? How much did I really sell? What was the cost reduction that I did? And that's, I think, also no doubt important, because somewhere to arrive at a stage of give, perhaps organizations need to be able to be, I guess it's a balance also.
See, that is like I said, that the third bottom line is the investment of choice. But it should be the third. And the first two also need to be prioritized.
Right.
Like what I have seen is that so many of my devotees in California are realtors. It's said that there are 1 million registered realtors in the state of California. So everybody is trying to sell property. But the realtor who's really successful is the one who's got a different approach, who sees that here is a customer who has a problem. He needs a good house. And here is a seller who has a problem. He needs to sell. And I'm a problem solver who's trying to help meet the needs of this person and meet the needs. So the people can perceive that this person is not in it for profits. This person is in it for helping me. Likewise, in the marketing field, you can keep on teaching salespeople theories about how to be more effective in their sales. But if you ask me, if the salesman just develops this attitude, I've got a product that can solve people's problems, and I've got people who have problems to solve, I'm going out to help them, people immediately perceive this guy is on my side. They're willing to trust, and that is what enhances the chances of sale. So the third bottom line, investment of choice, will require paying attention to the first two.
What is your view on Indian corporates, and are we cultivating enough SQ?
Since India is on a newly developing path, it's forging ahead rapidly. So there is a lot of rush for economic growth. And very often our Indian corporates maintain narrow perspective because they are novio rich, just recently become rich. Whereas people who have been in that environment for some time and seen that, okay, that's all very well, but it still doesn't give me the happiness and satisfaction I want, then they go for deeper values. We do have corporate houses, we do have individuals in our Indian environment who do live and work by more meaningful values. But overall, a lot of work needs to be done to get out of this immature mindset that it's all about me. I can do anything to get ahead of the others, to get profits, etc. So those values have to be inculcated from the educational system itself. And again, now people will say, okay, then Swamiji, how do we inculcate values in MBA students? So most of the business schools in the country have added a department of human values. But for the students who learn it, they don't connect with it because the teacher is saying you should be ethical. And the student thinks that all the gain lies in anything that I do. Anyway, why should I follow ethics? So if we can help people realize that their self-interest lies in developing the giving mentality. So I love this one story of one lady who went up to a happiness counselor and said that I am so unhappy since the last 2 years. Can you please tell me how do I overcome it, my misery? And the happiness counselor said, our janitor seems to be a very happy person. Let's find out from him the secret of happiness. So they called the janitor and he said, how come there's always a smile on your face? And the janitor said, sir, about 2 years ago, my wife died. And I was thrown into an ocean of misery. And 1 month later, my son also died in a car crash. And I didn't know how to handle myself. So one day, having purchased groceries, I was returning home from the market. A little kitten started following me. I allowed it to. When I reached my doorstep, the kitten stood there and started doing meow, meow. So I walked in, got a little milk in a saucer and put it before the kitten. The kitten licked up all the milk and then started purring and rubbing its back against my ankles. And for the first time in many months, a smile broke on my face. And then I thought, if just serving this kitten can make me happy, maybe I need to replicate this model with others as well. I knew my neighbor was unwell. I went and did the groceries for that person. I knew my other neighbor was blind. I helped with the little chores at home. And after that, I have never known an unhappy day. So this giving is the means for happiness. If we can convince people about these, they will automatically live more by the higher values.
So with respect to organizations and, what are the changes organizations can make? Let's say that, we said that we should do it with the students. That's one level where the Department of Human Values are coming in. And once young people enter organizations, what is it that leaders should do to cultivate this, the spirit of giving?
The leaders can reward service behaviors. Some companies have matching schemes where you give a certain amount to the non-profit of your choice and the company matches it with a donation from their side. This just helps inculcate in the executives their another aspect of life, which is the spiritual aspect, which is the aspect of social responsibility. Some corporations, they reward you for volunteer hours. So for example, they say that every half year, if you spend 100 volunteer hours, we'll reward you by giving a donation to that organization where you have worked for. This encourages people to go beyond self-interests. The idea is that everybody is engaged in self-seeking and you want to lift them to a higher purpose. So the higher purpose is not about self-fulfillment. It has to be beyond the self. It could be the community, the nation, the world at large. And that kind of alignment can be encouraged by corporations and executives.
And what about really, inculcating this giving spirit in the core work that I do? So one is we are speaking about inculcating it by working with charities or by working with not-for-profits, and then the organization supporting that. And that's a great way. And what about also measures in my core work? How can I create and cultivate a spirit of giving in my core work?
Well, it percolates from top down. When the senior executive has got this perspective that I truly wish to enrich the lives of my subordinates. The subordinates perceive that the company is just not extracting from me. See, I personally worked for 3 months and I felt totally suffocated. And I was working in good corporate houses, but I could perceive the artificiality of the whole environment, where the company is saying, we really care for you, but you could see that they don't care for you at all, right? And the employees are saying, we care for the company, but they don't, because the next company offers 20% higher salary, they'll switch. So if this environment gets created, that we wish to enrich the lives of the employees, we truly care for them. So that mindset will be then, absorbed by those below. And it is a question of repeating a message again and again and again.
At an individual level, what do we need to do as leaders? You spoke about the example of Indra Nooyi and how she had to kind of accept where things were, but also forge a new path. As leaders and as managers, individually, what do we need to do to cultivate that environment?
Highlight the benefits of what you are doing for society. Which means, let us say that you are just manufacturing a mobile phone, right? So remind your people that this is adding to the quality of life of the people. Okay? That means that your product is adding to the quality of life of people. Now that's what I've seen. People who work in Apple, they tell me that the conversation is always around, I am making a difference, I am making a difference. So that repetition has ingrained it in anybody who has joined, that my goal is to make a difference. Likewise, highlight the other benefits of the corporation, that the successful corporation will provide livelihood to people around, will boost the economy. So focus on the positives that are coming out of the corporation and let the conversation come around that, which then drives in the point that this is where I need to focus. The work will remain the same, right, but the intention behind it will change, which is exactly what our Bhagavad Gita says is Karma Yoga. In Karma Yoga, the work continues as it is, but the change in intention can be so immense that it can become a means for God realization.
Can you explain Karma Yoga a little bit for business leaders today?
Karma Yoga has got 2 aspects to it, Karma and Yoga. So yoga is not yoga as such. Yoga is the inner linking of the consciousness with the supreme consciousness. When our mind is imbued with noble, sublime, positive, loving thoughts, that is yoga. If you can do it alongside with karma, it becomes karma yoga. Now, everybody is doing karma or their works. But what is the state of the consciousness? It is embroiled in anger, greed, desire, tension, anxiety, fear, and all these. Right? So there's karma without yoga. Now the Gita says, look, you don't throw away karma, Arjun. You carry on doing your karma, but add yoga to it. So to define it in 1/4 of a verse, Sarveshu Kaleshu Ma Manusmara Yudhya Cha. Arjun, you are a warrior. Carry on doing your works. Don't artificially throw it away and go into the jungle. Because by nature, you are an administrator. If you go into the jungle, you will gather the tribals there and become their king as well. So work as per your nature, but add this to it. Keep your mind always in me. Keep that link and continue working. Are there going to be many, many benefits of Karma Yoga?
And Arjun here, in this example that you gave, he's wanting to go away to the forest, he's wanting to become a hermit. but Shri Krishna says to him that, you are a warrior. So how do I know, or how does anybody know what they are or what they're supposed to be?
That requires self-awareness. First of all the skills that you cultivated through your education, through your life, the propensity of your mind. What kind of work do you find natural for yourself? So somebody is a business person, they just love to earn money. That's very easy for them to do self-reading and realize that this is my nature. Somebody by nature is a teacher, they love to share knowledge. Right? So somebody loves to be an executive and so on. Self-awareness is required. Of course, in our Indian tradition, we also had the system of a guru, a spiritual teacher, that wherever you are confused, you went to a guru who understood you from that higher perspective and from the vantage point of all the knowledge, and could say, look, this is your nature. Now, work in that nature, but add the yoga to it.
And this adding the yoga to it at an individual level, when we are doing our karma, but want to add the yoga to it, what should we be doing on a daily basis in the way we run our lives to be able to add yoga to our karma?
I can answer your question from various perspectives and levels, but first and foremost, learn to be detached from results. Now, why are executives so stressed out? Stress is considered the executive's disease. And people are always stressed because it's like the targets, the year-end targets and the quarter targets are getting ahead of the others, the corporate rat race. So stress is ubiquitous. And the Gita is giving us the only solution to stress. So when people first asked me to speak on stress many years ago, I thought, let me ask Mr. Google about stress management. And came up with so many answers. Somebody said you do yoga, somebody said you do Tai Chi, somebody said you do management, the real mind, meditation, etc. And then I saw that they're all guessing. The real remedy to stress was given 5,000 years ago in the Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Arjun, do your works, but don't be attached to outcomes. So all the stress gets created when we are clinging to the outcome. And why? We are thinking the outcome is for my sake. It's all for me. And spirituality changes that consciousness. It says, look, you are a tiny part of the Supreme. And your purpose should be to please the Supreme with your works. So let the works be for His enjoyment. Now you focus on the efforts and not on the results. Of course, you need to have an intelligent effort, set out your goals, but let the mind be focused on the efforts. And then you will find that the results are for His pleasure. So that is one way to do it. The second way is learn to feel the presence of God in your life. So we always perceive I am. I am speaking, I am listening, I am working, and we forget there's another personality who's also present with us. Now add that to your consciousness. He is with me. He is my witness, He is my enjoyer, He is my protector. Before you begin your work, just stop for a moment and place Sri Krishna on the empty chair there. He is all-pervading, you just realize He is there and start your works. Now you are not an accomplished karma yogi, so it will slip out of your mind when you work. After an hour, stop and again think, Sri Krishna is watching. So this consciousness which had started dipping will rise again. then again starts dipping, again rise. Do it after every hour, and then change it to every half an hour, and then narrow the gap until one day we learn to live in the presence of the Lord.
What if I don't believe in Sri Krishna? What if I don't believe in the concept of Sri Krishna? Then what do I do when I'm seeing, this as a practical aid?
This, the one that I explained, is for somebody who feels that personal relationship. Now, if somebody does not feel that connection, you can always tweak the same thing. I'm doing it for the pleasure of the universe. I'm doing it for humankind. Or I'm doing it for my country, for my society. Anything that is higher than myself. It should not be doing it for myself. That is the selfishness. That is the material consciousness. We need to move ahead from that paradigm.
And what happens to people once they start doing things selflessly? What happens as changes in ourselves?
Modern psychology has explained two kinds of pleasures. One is the hedonic pleasures. These are the pleasures of the senses, of the flesh. Spurts of enjoyment, going for a party, having a binge on junk foods, etc. That will thrill but will never fulfill. So either one keeps on chasing hedonic pleasures all their life, or else you see, how do I find the true fulfillment of my soul? That is the eudaimonic pleasure. So eu means good for you, and daimon means the real you. So that kind of pleasure which is good for the real you will come when you align yourself with the higher purpose. It will be a pleasure that you get from inside, that needs nothing from the outside. And when you relish that pleasure, that is when you get motivated to do good. Let me do the maximum good that I can. This popular example, either you look on life as an ice cream cone that you need to eat as quickly before it melts, or look on life as a candle where you give out as much light as you can before you melt. So, when we understand, when our belief system says, the pleasure my soul is seeking will come by dedicating to a higher purpose, then we strive to do good. And when you truly strive to do good, you realize the biggest impediment is my own self. I'm not good enough. I need to work on myself to be truly impactful. Then the motivation comes to be good. Now you are trying to grow from within and use your work for creating an impact. And that's the way to feel truly happy. That's why at JK Yog, we have the slogan, do good, be good, and then feel good.
So to do good, I have to be good. And that will help me feel sustainably good.
Yes.
And to be good, what are some of the practices that I could cultivate as an individual working in an organization to be good?
If you wish to be good, that puts you on the track of spiritual practices. The spirituality puts you in touch with a variety of techniques and inner technologies for manifesting the divinity of the soul. The first step that people need to take is to make time for it. So the focus is always on doing, and they're ignoring the being. Like, ask an average executive that in your 365-day calendar, how much time did you focus on improving yourself? It was always on improving the externals, the environment, the performance, the results. Where it's the concept of sharpening the saw. That if you keep on cutting wood and don't make time for sharpening the saw, then it makes you inefficient. So likewise, one of the means of our work becomes our own consciousness. And if our consciousness starts drooping, it affects our enthusiasm and our positivity and everything. So we need to lift up our consciousness, right? So that is where we have a variety of spiritual practices. Now, I could go in great detail, but very briefly, the first is to hear divine wisdom. This is greatly extolled in our Vedic system, Shravanam, because that immediately illumines your intellect with all these noble ideas. The second is contemplation. You take one gem of wisdom and think about it again and again and again. That is what makes it seep in and helps transform your personality. Let's say if somebody is given to anger. Now, you tell them that, look, anger is hurtful to you, it's not a good thing, they realize. But when the moment arises and the anger comes up, they forget. So, what is required is to internalize that, look, anger is hurting me. And chintan or contemplation is the mental practice. It is one of the most powerful means we have for self-transformation. And the third is meditation or dhyan. And the fourth is bhakti, attaching your mind to the Supreme.
So that's a great blueprint with respect to mind management and stress management. What is it that organizations can do for their workforces to better help workforces manage their mind and manage their stress?
Organizations naturally need to keep in mind the perspective of diversity. And that is the way a democratic society should function, where we realize that people have their individual spiritual faiths. So we don't wish to impose, one thing for everyone. We wish for them to encourage them in the path of their choice. So organizations can organize a variety of these programs. For example, I have seen myself in these multinational corporations, like, let's say if I go to Silicon Valley, now you have in Apple, the Indian community, they are given complete freedom to invite spiritual teachers who then help the employees get exposed to all of this. So corporations can encourage such kind of activity, and they can even conduct workshops. So personality development, executive development workshops are commonplace. Now those can be enhanced, where you invite people who conduct workshops in mind management, workshops in the art and science of happiness, and things like that.
Got it. And you spoke about the reading of wisdom and the consumption of wisdom, then the reflection on that wisdom, then the process of meditation, and finally the process of bhakti. Does meditation have a role in corporates today?
Meditation has been recognized as a wonderful tool. One of the biggest problems that people face is their uncontrolled mind, where the mind is the factory for thoughts and emotions. So it results in a situation of tyranny of emotions, where a person says, I'm in a bad mood today, I'm feeling hurt because of this person's behavior, and that makes them less effective. So meditation helps create a distance between people and their mind, and that frees them from the tyranny of their emotions. It helps people develop more EQ, that is, management of their lower self, their emotions. It helps people enhance their focus. It helps people make their minds more sublime, and develop positive thoughts, noble thoughts. A person who has, through meditation, learned to master the mind, now has the mind at their disposal. Now, how motivated do I wish to be? It's for me to make my mind create those enthusiastic emotions. So the Bhagavad Gita says, look, Arjun, this mind, if it is uncontrolled, it will be your worst enemy. But if it is controlled, it will become your best friend. One of the tools for controlling the mind is meditation.
And you've written a couple of best-selling books with respect to mind control. Can you tell us a little bit about what those books contain?
The first one got published, Science of Mind Management. That really did well. Everybody is tyrannized by their mind, and they look for knowledge and means on how to control the mind. Unfortunately, modern psychology falls extremely short. If you start from Sigmund Freud and then move on to Carl Jung, Adler, Maslow, Michelangelo, etc., you see that the tools they have given are very elementary. And then you come to what the Bhagavad Gita is teaching. It goes into the complete depths. It says it treats anger, greed, desire as manas rog, as ailments of the mind. And then explains why these are created, what is the root of that, what is the root of that, what is the root of that. And it goes on into giving solutions. So some of these, in that book, I tried to show how our spiritual knowledge gives the most powerful tools for mind management. And then I came up with a sequel, which was The Power of Thoughts. Now, thoughts is another thing that gives people problems. And most people are victims of negative thinking. So they realize that they should not be thinking negative thoughts, but they kind of grip them so strongly that they are not able to free themselves from it. So our mind has got this negativity bias. It's just like, let us say that you, after your food, you ate fennel seeds and one got stuck. Now, there are 28 crevices between the 32 teeth, but the tongue keeps on visiting the one place where there is a defect. Likewise, is our mind. 24 areas in your life are perfect, and one area is defective, and the mind keeps on visiting that again and again and again. He behaved like this with me, or that one mistake I made just keeps on and on repeating. So people don't know how to get free themselves from it. So in that, I presented simple tools, how to free yourself from negative thinking and how to unleash the potential for positive thoughts.
So Swamiji, could you share with us some of those tools here for if somebody has to get a sense, and then of course they can go deeper in the books?
One simple tool is positive reframing. Now, there is this terrible situation which I am so depressed about that my mind is now drooping in misery. Positive reframing just teaches you to learn to look at that situation differently. Like, for example, when the flooding happened in Uttarakhand, I think it was the year 2012, it was unprecedented disaster. And as per government of Uttarakhand information, 5,700 people died. So aid was pouring in from all around the world. And we were also trying to do our little from the US. And I was looking at a TV coverage of the event where the interviewer was asking people about the tragedy that hit them. And the cameraman suddenly turned to a lady, an old lady, and the interviewer said, Mataji, what has been the tragedy in your home? And she said, I am thanking God for his blessings. So the interviewer was shocked at her answer, because positive news means less TRP points than negative news. So he said, you have not had any damage to your home. She said, my home has been washed away. He said, your home is washed away and you're thanking God? She said, my husband is alive. My children are safe. My grandchildren are intact. If any of them had been washed away, that would be irreplaceable. Now, the situation is the same, and you can't do much about it. You can't do much about many situations, but you can reframe how you look at it. Like the saying is always goes that the glass, everybody's glass in life is half empty, but it's also half full. So it depends on what you choose to focus on. Count the many blessings in your life. It's the sovereign recipe for overcoming negative thinking.
And how do we make our glass from half full to full?
It is full. Only thing is, learn to accept that it's half full with water and half full with air. So rather than demanding for creation to fulfill my needs, I need to develop an attitude of contentment. I am thankful for the many blessings and also the challenges. That kind of perspective leads to contentment.
Swamiji, I think this is a good juncture for me to say that I am thankful for all the wisdom that you've shared and the many perspectives on organizations and how they can cultivate a spiritual quotient. There's some great lessons for leaders and managers. You've also given some practical advice on how individuals can look at it. And within this, there are some golden nuggets which I'm sure we will be able to share with audiences across. So thank you very much for sharing all of this with us, and we are supremely grateful for it.
Thank you for your kind words, Harshil. It was a pleasure being here, and happy to have this conversation and churn this topic with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for today. What a conversation. I really hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments, inputs, anything that you feel like we should have asked more of, please make the comments below this community that we can engage with and we can add value to. Looking forward to hear from you and looking forward to see you next time. Till then, enjoy, and please do hit the subscribe button if you can. Thank you.